Africa needs to own its destiny and do so with intentionality in order to capture opportunities like artificial intelligence, possibly adding $100 billion to the continent's economy. This is according to Mayowa Kuyoro, partner and head of Africa Financial Services at McKinsey. She spoke with our Rise business correspondent, Rotu Sudiri, at the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan.
Mayowa Kuyoro, partner lead financial services Africa for McKinsey. It's good to see you here at the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan. The theme for this year is about Africa in a transactional world and how there needs to be a handshake with the private sector in order to get investment in. Can that realistically be achieved?
I think absolutely. There's no other time such as this where it's important for the public sector and the private sector to come together in Africa. You see what's happening globally with overseas development assistance, pulling back, the world following the lead that has been set by the United States. And so we do need to own our own destiny. So it takes intention. You have governments who have already indicated, and already begin to show the early signs of partnership with the private sector. And we know in a transactional world that nobody's going to wait for the slow cogs of bureaucracy to happen. And I think what needs to really, the mindset shift, the paradigm shift that needs to happen now is for us to see the development of our continent as not as a zero-sum game where one party loses because one party is winning, but where all the stakeholders come together to work effectively for the growth and development of our continent. So I think it's absolutely possible. It takes intention. We're already seeing the early signs of that as well.
We've met with you at a number of forums in the past. We've talked a lot about technology and digitization, but I want to ask you about the hurdles, and one of them being, of course, electricity. I mean, still about, I don't know, what is it, 600 million Africans or so still lack access to electricity. So, I mean, can we get past that in terms of getting our digitization drive forward?
Look, I think I have to acknowledge that it is a big challenge. You can't build a digital continent in the dark, right? And you said it's 60% or more than 6% actually of Africans are not connected to electricity. Having said that, I do think that you have to also, I like to look at the two sides of the equation, right? When we talk about digital, I think one of the big hurdles of not having electricity is also the infrastructure. So things such as your cloud services, your data center, you can't do all of that without electricity. But you look at the resilience of the Africans, you see that we are accessing, the bulk of Africans access the internet and digital through their phones. And if you go to any market, you see people plugging their mobile devices to the one port of electricity. So I think the ingenuity, the entrepreneurship, the resourcefulness of everyday Africans is really going to come to bear. And we're seeing across the continent several different innovations that are, I think, will stand us in good stead in the time to come.
What about financial inclusion, particularly for people in the hinterlands, in the rural areas? Are you seeing enough progress being made there in terms of using digitization to get financial services where people are further out on the continent?
Yeah, when I get asked about this question about rural areas, I always say, let's look back to why M-Pesa started. M-Pesa started as a means to get money from urban workers to their rural families. So send remittances from urban areas to rural families, and it's become, a continent-wide phenomenon. I think that we don't have enough. Is it enough? No. Right? And if you look at, let's take Nigeria, where we're both from. If you look at who is primarily financially excluded, it is people in rural, uneducated areas. That's the bulk of folks that are financially excluded. But you've also seen over the last, if I reflect over the last 3-4 years, you've seen people moving out of Lagos. If you'd asked me this question, 5 years ago, 2020, and I've told you all the fintechs were just all located in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja. But you're seeing people moving outside of the urban and peri-urban areas into the rural areas to try and address financial exclusion there. So I think that, it's a matter of time. Is it at the scale where we would want it to be today? No, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Speaking of a matter of time, artificial intelligence has been a big topic. But I mean, for us here, I mean, a lot of focus has been on global trade tensions and private sector investment. Is that still something that Africa should be looking at, or has it been buried by all these other geopolitical issues?
Look, actually, let me do a small plug. We're launching a report on artificial intelligence.
Amen. We gotta look at that. We have to look at that
today, I think. But it is, we did research, and it has the potential to add up to 100 billion to our businesses, to our economies over the next couple of years. So it cannot be on the back burner. If I think about what are the things that are going to be game changers for us on the continent, I actually think artificial intelligence is one of them. You see examples of folks using artificial intelligence for credit scoring, which, I'm a financial services person, so I'll use a lot of those examples. You see that for, they're using large language models to personalize products and services in local African languages at a scale at which we've not seen before. And so, when you put all of this together, for me, it's almost where we should be leading as a continent, as opposed to being a consumer of intellectual property. I think AI could be one of the areas where Africa really, the same way we've leapfrogged on the digital and mobile side, I think we can also leapfrog on AI and use it to solve some of our intractable problems, so to speak.
Yeah. What about the skills pipeline that you would need to, manage the software, the large language models, and in particular, young girls and women? Are you still seeing enough coming into the tech space, or is there still work that needs to be done there?
So the story of women in tech in Africa is a very, I would say it's very interesting. When you look at the number of women in STEM education globally, Africa actually is probably top 3 region in the world for the number of women in STEM. You then look at how many people actually get into the workplace. I think the gap between the school to work transition is about from 50% graduates to 30% at entry level. Right, then you stay from entry level all the way through to senior management and C-suite, and the number drops anywhere from 20 to 25%. So less than a third of C-suite women in Africa are C-suite people in Africa are women. So that's kind of fact number one. Fact number two is you look at founders, right? People who are starting are the young, the digital companies and the startups that we're all excited about. It will. When I saw this number, I was very, very sad. Less than 2%. Less than 2% of funding in Africa goes to female founders. So I think that, from the perspective of the pipeline, the women are there, they're educated, they have the, and I say educated in the sense that if you assume that we're in a level playing field, they have all the same access to education and whatnot, especially formal education. Where we need to really begin to put some work is the school to work transition. And then when you're in work, ensuring that women sort of go through the pipeline. And the second thing for me is also ensuring that we channel funding. So not only highlight female entrepreneurs, because there's a lot that's highlighting female entrepreneurs, but actually fund female entrepreneurs so that you can see the growth you want to see there. I think a third point I'll just make is I think this whole thing around educating the young talent that Africa has. Africa is going to add 800 million people to the workforce by 2050. And this is in a context where China is declining, Europe is flat, the US is flat. So the workforce of the world is going to be the continent. We need a multi-stakeholder approach in order to make sure that talent that is coming in is adequately skilled for the work that Africa needs in the future. And I think also we always think when we think about education, we think a lot about university, but I think we also need to put quite as much emphasis on vocational education as well, so TVET, to make sure that again, the way we talked about AI just previously, the way people are learning is changing. Let's give them the particular skills that we require to solve the problems that we have, and it doesn't necessarily have to be sitting in a classroom opening a book. So I'm really excited about what the future holds, and hopefully, with settings like this where you have stakeholders from the public sector, the private sector, the social sector coming together, we can really find and design and implement the solutions that we need to see the New Deal for Africa.
Africa CEO Forum, bringing the great minds like yourself here to rub minds together. Thank you so much. Mayowa Kuyoro,
pleasure.
Partner lead at Financial Services McKinsey for Africa. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Super. Thank you very much.